Good morning, everyone. It's Wednesday, December 2nd, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Kim Mo-kyun. Before we get started, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. A day ahead of the National College Entrance Exam, test takers are heading to test centers to receive their tickets for tomorrow's big day. Authorities are on high alert to prevent massive spread as the nation once again saw an increase to 511 new COVID-19 cases Wednesday. The European Medicines Agency plans to convene a meeting by December 29th to decide if there's enough safety and efficacy data on Pfizer and BioNTech's vaccine. Once approved, the vaccine could be available by this year. And the U.S. State Department has launched a new website to provide easier access to information related to the violation of sanctions imposed on North Korea. A reward of $5 million will be given for reports on sanction evasion activities. And we begin with the COVID-19 situation in South Korea. The country reported 511 new cases on Wednesday, climbing back to the 500s after falling slightly for 3 days. Of the new cases, 493 were locally transmitted, most of which were in the greater capital area. 18 cases were imported from overseas. The total number of cases is now over 35,000. No additional deaths have been reported, with the death toll staying at 526. It's D-1 before South Korea's college entrance exam, which means the test takers have their orientations today. Test takers will receive their tickets for the College Scholastic Ability Test, or CSAT for short, and check out their testing site. Due to COVID-19, they will receive the necessary documents via walkthrough, and no one is allowed to go into the testing facilities until test day. Close to 500,000 students and others have applied to take the test. The government has put in extra measures to prevent a possible spread of the virus, including having fewer test takers in each room and having students wear masks during the test period. The EU's drug agency says it may need a few more weeks to approve its first COVID-19 vaccine. If approved, Pfizer's vaccine could be the first one to get rolled out before the end of the year. Lee Seung-jae reports.
The European Medicines Agency says it may need 4 more weeks to approve its first COVID-19 vaccine for use in the EU. The announcement comes as the agency plans to convene a meeting by December 29th to decide if there's enough safety and efficacy data on the vaccine from Pfizer and BioNTech. Once approved, BioNTech says the vaccine could be available before the end of 2020. However, watchers say that's unlikely, as the EU Commission usually needs to rubber stamp the regulator's decision. While the US is pushing for a mid-December approval, officials in Europe are being cautious, saying vaccination programs likely won't start until the end of the year. French President Emmanuel Macron says he's aiming for late December or early January.
In all likelihood, we envisage between around late December or early January a first vaccination campaign that will be targeted with first-generation vaccines for which we have little perspective, whose conditions of storing and logistics are quite complex.
He added that in all likelihood, a second round of vaccinations would start in April or June and would be available to the general public. Pfizer and BioNTech's vaccine, which has been shown to be 95% effective, has already been submitted to regulators in the US and Britain. Hospitals in the UK have been told they could receive the first doses as early as next week. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And on the worsening COVID-19 pandemic around the world, the U.S., the world's worst hit country by confirmed cases, is seeing startling numbers. Data shows an average of 50 Americans lost their lives from the virus every hour in November. Our Kim Hyo-san reports.
As the world continues to grapple with the fast spread of COVID-19, the U.S. has recorded over 4.4 million new cases in the month of November alone. That's far more than double any other month of the pandemic. Citing data released by Johns Hopkins University, CNN explained that the number amounted to some 32% of the accumulated COVID-19 cases in the country. It added that the latest surge is exactly what the country's health authorities had predicted. The data also shows that there were nearly 37,000 COVID-19 related deaths last month. On average, 1,200 people lost their lives daily, and an average of 50 Americans died every hour. Italy, the first Western country to be hit by the virus, also reported over 800,000 new cases last month. Its health authorities say that the total case count is even more than the combined tallies for the 8 months from February to October, and many are describing November as a month of tragedy. Meanwhile, Russian authorities reported a record high of 560 deaths related to COVID-19 on Monday, raising the total fatalities to over 44,000. The country has the fourth largest number of COVID-19 cases, trailing behind the U.S., India, and Brazil. Kim Hye-sun, Arirang News.
COVID-19 could have been in the U.S. well before the country's first reported case and even before it was officially identified in China. On Monday, scientists from various U.S. institutions, including the CDC, published a study based on blood samples collected by the American Red Cross from 9 states. From there, 106 samples collected between December 13th and January 17th showed evidence of the virus. This is a few weeks earlier than the first case reported from Wuhan, China, where scientists believe the virus originated. The first time the U.S. officially reported a case was January 19th. The results suggest that the virus had been spreading around the world before it was officially identified. The occupant of the White House will change in less than 2 months, but the biggest challenge in the U.S. remains the same: COVID-19. Speaking on Tuesday, President-elect Joe Biden vowed press for a stimulus package and plans to do so even before he takes office. Our Jonguns reports.
Re-stimulate the American economy and rebuild it better. That was the message from U.S. President-elect Joe Biden as he formally introduced his top economic policy advisors. First thing first, he said the team's priority is healing the COVID-19 hit U.S. economy. Biden used the opportunity to urge Congress to swiftly pass a pandemic aid package that has been stalled for months. He said he wants it before Inauguration Day on January 20th.
My transition team is already working on what I'll put forward in the next Congress to address the multiple crises we're facing, especially our economic and COVID crises.
Biden has repeatedly spoken about the pandemic's impact being unequal. He says those in the most vulnerable bracket, including service sector workers, are hit hardest while also being the last to recover. And helping these people is likely to be the key focus of Biden's team, including that of his Treasury Secretary nominee, Janet Yellen.
The pandemic and economic fallout that together have caused so much damage for so many and have had a disproportionate impact on the most vulnerable among us. Lost lives, lost jobs, small businesses struggling to stay alive.
The former Fed chief called the situation an American tragedy, calling for urgent action to prevent more devastation. Cecilia Rouse, the African-American nominee for chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, vowed government stimulus to maximize employment for all Americans. The other advisors commonly stressed the importance of tackling inequality, providing equal chances, and expanding the middle class. Biden and his team added that fairness and equality are their key values in their efforts to rebuild the U.S. economy better. Jonguns, Arirang News.
South Korea's consumer prices saw a slight increase in November compared to a year earlier, but the inflation rate still remained below 1%. According to Statistics Korea on Wednesday, the consumer price index stood at 105.5 last month, up 0.6% from a year earlier. Prices of agricultural, livestock, and fisheries products jumped 11.1% on year. But dining out prices only rose 0.9% as the pandemic hit demand. Industrial goods prices dropped 0.9% due to low crude oil prices. Gas, water, and electricity prices also fell 4.1% from a year earlier. But the cost of rent increased by 0.6%, its biggest rise since June 2018. The U.S. State Department has launched a new website to report information relating to the violation of North Korea's sanctions. Speaking virtually at the Center for Strategic and International Studies on Tuesday, the department's deputy envoy for the North, Alex Wong, said a reward of $5 million will be given in exchange for tips on the evasion of sanctions that enable the regime's development of nuclear weapons. These include money laundering, the export of luxury goods to the North, as well as other activities that support the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. A U.S. analyst on North Korea has reported that the regime's leader Kim Jong-un has received COVID-19 vaccines from China. However, the Chinese government neither confirmed nor denied the claim by saying they hadn't heard that news. Our Choi Min-jung has more details.
North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un is said to have received a COVID-19 vaccine from China. This is according to Harry Kazianis, a U.S. expert on North Korea at the Center for the National Interest in Washington. Citing Japanese intelligence sources, the analyst claimed Tuesday that Kim, his family, and top officials had been vaccinated with an experimental COVID-19 vaccine provided by the Chinese government. Some experts, however, have cast doubts on Kazianis' claim. With the results of Chinese vaccines currently undergoing Phase 3 clinical trials yet to be announced, experts say it is more likely that Kim would choose verified European vaccines to those supplied by Beijing. The Chinese government, on the other hand, neither confirmed nor denied the claim, as Hua Chunying, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson, questioned the origin of the news and said she was not aware of it.
I don't know where this news comes from. I haven't heard of it.
The government official did, however, state that vaccines will be distributed to developing countries first as a public good, once the development process is completed. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
A statue in Berlin symbolizing victims of Japan's wartime sexual slavery may be staying where she is forever. The country of Mitte Borough, a central Berlin district, voted to keep the statue until September of next year and to start discussing for ways have it stand forever. The statue was erected in September by the civic group Korea Verband, but the district office soon ordered its removal after the Japanese government lobbied against it. However, the council voted to retract the order soon afterwards, allowing it to remain in place until August next year, with a further 6-week extension agreed. Of the 31 council members, 24 were in favor of keeping the statue.
Good morning. This year's college entrance exam Suneung is taking place tomorrow. It's being held 2 weeks later than usual, so test takers will have to brace for the early December chill. Temperatures will be a couple degrees below the season norms along with crisp winds, so dress extra warmly and in layers. Dry weather advisories have been expanded to more regions along the East Coast, including Daegu, so be sure to drink plenty of water and be careful with anything that could start a fire. Morning lows were similar to slightly higher than the same time yesterday, with highs hovering slightly below the season norms, and it's going to get sunnier as the day goes on today. The weather pattern looks cold for central and inner regions for early December with cloudy days ahead. But it's going to get slightly milder on Sunday, but the warms won't stick around for that long. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
And that's a wrap for us at the hour on Arirang News. We'll be back with more of the day's headlines at noon Korea time, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Mandatory mask wearing to prevent a resurgence of COVID-19 cases. Wearing a mask is now mandatory on public transport, in crowded settings such as rallies, and at medical and care facilities where the risk of infection is high. Clubs, singing rooms, and other high-risk facilities must make masks mandatory as advised according to the level of social distancing. Another important factor is the type of mask used. Only government-certified masks such as KF94, KF80, medical, surgical, and anti-droplet masks are acceptable. Fines will be imposed on those who violate the rules. Mandatory mask use is the least we can do to protect ourselves and others from COVID-19. Let's all stick to the basics.